Hey there, creepy peeps. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back. If you are returning, it's time to go over everything I read in April, which actually isn't that much. So it turns out when you're in lockdown and you're in self-quarantine, it's really hard to focus on anything. I had such a hard time focusing on reading anything, even though I wanted to read, and watching movies and TV. So I didn't read a lot. In fact, I read barely anything. So please sound off in the comments if you're in the same boat as me this past month, so I don't feel as bad. But let's go ahead and go over the things I read this month, starting of course with the Creepy Book Club pick for April, which was Carpathia by Matt Forbeck. This book follows a group of friends traveling to New York on the Titanic. The novel opens on the day the ocean liner sank, and the survivors are picked up by the Carpathia, only to find out something even more sinister awaits them on board. So in case you didn't know, I do have a book club. We're on Goodreads. The link is in the description. We read one horror book per month. So if you want to read more, or you just want to chit chat with other horror book lovers, you should join us. I'll talk about our May book at the end of this video. If you follow me on social media, you probably already saw what it was already. Well, I am going to spoil a teensy bit what's going on in the book. I'm not going to talk about everything in detail though, so cover your ears if you don't want it spoiled. It's vampires. I do like the vampire twist on this story. I think it was really cool and it worked surprisingly well with everything that was going on. Without giving any more away, I do like the conflict in the story. There was a whole lot more than just the human versus vampire conflict going on, and I like that there was added levels to that. Speaking very vaguely. The only thing I didn't like, you'll notice in a second here, this was a trend with the other book club members who read this. I did not like the love triangle thing going on. So we have our three main characters, Quinn, Lucy, and Abe, and yeah, there's a love triangle. I don't think it added to the story or the characters, because it would crop up every now and then, this whole love triangle scenario, conflict, whatever you want to call it. But then it would rightfully be pushed to the back burner when more pressing things happened, like, you know, the Titanic sinking, trying not to drown or freeze to death, and then fighting off vampires. So I didn't really understand the point of it. Honestly, I think you could have taken the love triangle out of the equation and the book wouldn't have lost anything of value. Overall, though, I thought the book was okay. I'm very middle of the road on this one. It reads extremely fast. In our book club, we break the book up in sections for discussion before we get to the very end, the last discussion, which I usually read out here. This reads super fast. Every time I sat down to read it, I breezed through it. So I feel like this is definitely a good one if you want to get into horror lit. It's not heavy. It's really fast to read. It's really easy to read. So I definitely recommend this to anybody like just getting into horror books. So Mindy said she really enjoyed her reading experience of this book. Didn't enjoy the love triangle through the first half, but I love the fast-paced vampire fun that this novel had to offer. I love the story being set in the confined space of a ship and in the middle of the ocean. 3.5 stars. Agree. Didn't like the love triangle. The confined space definitely makes it scarier when you have very limited places to run and hide. Amy said, I like that this book was a good, easy read. I was not expecting that ending at all, but in a good way. I was a little worried in the beginning that this was going to be a lot more focused on the boys fighting over Lucy, but I was pleasantly surprised with the ending. I think for somebody maybe just trying to get into horror / creepy books, this would be a good one to read. Agreed. Again, we didn't like the love triangle. Definitely think it's something good for somebody just starting out for like creepy books or creepy reads. Jen wrote, totally agree with the comment so far. I was also not expecting the ending, but I was pleasantly surprised. It would be interesting to see what the author would do with the sequel. Abe's journey might be fun to read. I also agreed that the confined space added to the tension. Limiting the setting helped to focus more on the characters. I do wish I got a little more detail about the main vampires, but the action made up for that. Quick and fun read. Yeah, the ending wasn't exactly what I expected. To an extent, yes, there were aspects of it that I was like, oh, okay, well that happened. With Abe, which is kind of a spoiler, but it's out of context, because if you haven't read it, you don't know what we're talking about. Peyton wrote, I wasn't a fan of the first half's love triangle or of the beginning in general, but the second half's vampire action was super fun. It was a quick read with an unexpected but good ending. Not the greatest thing ever written, but worth a read for the vampire aspect alone. 3 out of 5. Yeah, again, the vampire story was really interesting. I feel like this would even be something that would be good as like a mini series or something, to be honest. But yeah, again, I told you, none of us liked the love triangle. Then Tally wrote, I listened to this as an audiobook and I think it may have made the experience better as the narrator was so great. I agree that the love triangle was meh, and I'm glad it wasn't the main focus of the story, although I loved Lucy and her feminism views. I wasn't overly fond of Abe, but felt his story arc was fantastic. I had no clue what this was about going into it, and I was so pleasantly surprised by it. To begin with, I thought the vampires were introduced too early, but it meant that there was time to learn the dynamics of the vampires. I really enjoyed that the vampires were not all copy and paste with the same desires. Yeah, that's something I didn't talk about in my review, but I did like Lucy as a character. She's a suffragette and very big feminist energy from Lucy. I did like Abe's story arc as well. I totally agree with Tally. I was a little bit worried at first. I thought he was just going to be like a flat 2D character because Quinn and Lucy seem more of the focus of this book. But he ended up having a very interesting story arc. It gets really interesting for him by the end. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, like I said, I'm middle of the road on this one. It's a 2.5. From me, it says 2 out of 5 on Goodreads because Goodreads will still not let you do half stars. I don't know why. Not the worst thing I've ever read, but it wasn't my favorite either. It was just okay. On Goodreads in general, it has a 3.10 out of 5. On barnesandnoble.com, it has a 3.5 out of 5. And on Amazon, it has a 3.6 out of 5. So the next 2 books I read were super short, so I'll go over them quickly. First one is The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. Growing up in the 1980s Niagara Falls, a seedy but magical, slightly haunted place, Jake Baker spends most of his time with his uncle Calvin, a kind but eccentric enthusiast of occult artifacts and conspiracy theories. The summer Jake turns 12, he befriends a pair of siblings new to town, and so Calvin decides to initiate them all into the Saturday Night Ghost Club. But as the summer goes on, what begins as a seemingly lighthearted project may ultimately uncover more than any of its members had imagined. With the alternating warmth and sadness of the best coming-of-age stories, the Saturday Night Ghost Club examines the haunting mutability of memory and storytelling, as well as the experiences that form the people we become. So this is a super cute yet creepy coming-of-age story, which is also why I chose to read it this year because it's for my reading challenge. One of the prompts was to read a Bildungsroman, which is a coming-of-age story. Here we go. It's a super quick yet really rewarding story about friendship, family, death, and loss, of course, as all good coming-of-age stories are. Especially for Jake, who is our main character. He is super endearing, super relatable character that you instantly vibe with, you're instantly attached to, and you can't help but root for him in the novel. So like I said, this is like very cute and creepy. It's not necessarily that scary. More just kind of haunting, I guess, would be the appropriate adjective. Definitely really good summer read too, and quite quick too. So something, you know, you could take with you on vacation if we're able to leave our homes and go on vacation this summer. It's a 4 out of 5 from me. And lastly, I read Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney, who is actually, any of you who are a fan of horror books and you watch YouTube, I'm sure you know his channel. I'll link it in the description. He's a horror booktuber and author. So I really wanted some Halloween vibes. So I decided to pick this up because I needed the Halloween spirit to flow through me. So Autumn Crow is an anthology taking place in the town of Autumn Crow, where it's spooky season all year round. So like I said, I just really needed some Halloween vibes because of all the crazy going on in the world. So this book was perfect for that. And you guys know how much I love anthologies as well. So it was just perfect all around. What I'm trying to say is I got mega Halloween warm fuzzies from this. The stories are well written. I feel like they're the perfect length as well. They weren't too short, but not too long either. I will say the endings and the twists maybe were a little bit cliche, but what isn't anymore? What makes it unique is everything else, the embellishments that you put on the story, and these were definitely unique. I also like that Autumn Crow as a town is a bit sinister. So I know I'm talking about how it gave me like the Halloween warm fuzzies and stuff, but it's not like Halloween Town or something like that where it's like 100% cute, fun Halloween. There's something underlying in the town that's dark and scary and murderous. So just because you're a resident of the town and if you know, love scary stuff and Halloween and you live here, it doesn't mean you're safe from the sinister nature of the town. And I like that. I feel like that added a little something to it. All that being said though, I still want to live here. So if it's a, like, is it real? Have you been there, Cameron? Can you give me the coordinates? It's a 4.5 from me. So there you have it. That's everything I read in April. I know, not a lot. I'm back working now, so my reading should be back up to where it was because it's like my favorite after work activity is to just sit and read. Really quick, if you didn't see it on my social media and you want to join us for our May Creepy Book Club pick, we are reading the classic Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. So yeah, as you can see, I kind of already started it. I couldn't resist. I've been really excited to see this. I remember watching the movie from the 80s and I barely remember anything. I know the gist of the story, but everybody does, I feel like. This is such a classic story. So if you want, you still got time to pick this up and read this. We're reading it all through May. Now would be a good time to join us also because we're very, very close to picking our reads for the rest of the year as well. So if you want to be a part of that, you should join. Before I end this video, I want to thank my creepy patron peeps for their support of my channel. Thank you guys so much. If you want to find out the perks to being a creepy patron peep yourself, you can follow that link in the description. And if you're new here or if you've been lurking for a while, you should totally subscribe. Become a creepy peep today. I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you so much for listening to me talk. I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Until then, stay strange. Bye.